So, a lot of you may be familiar with Donato's Pizza, and a lot of you may not be familiar with Donato's Pizza. But this man was, I guess, just recently retired, but was CEO of Donato's Pizza for quite some time, and did a lot of amazing things. And the reason I asked him to join us on stage here today is because every time I looked at LinkedIn, or every time I looked at any kind of social media, I saw this guy, and it all had to do, I think, with people, and I'll let him talk about that. But first, since nobody knows who the hell you are, Zach does.
Zach does.
Yeah. You want to give us a little background, please, and tell us what you're all about?
Well, interestingly, I went to Upper Arlington High School, which is the home of the Golden Bears.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholas. Nicholas. Lisa Ingram, Wendy Thomas, Cameron Mitchell. See, it's a restaurant high school. Anyway, no, I started, the first half of my career was really in marketing and brand advertising. I worked for a couple of advertising agencies, worked early on in the fast food business. We did public relations. I had a small firm that did public relations for McDonald's in Columbus, Ohio. McDonald's decided they wanted their own separate PR firm in Columbus, Ohio, basically to stick it to Wendy's is what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And stick it to them we did. And so after a while, actually, I ended up working for Wendy's. So the first chunk of my career was in marketing at Wendy's. I was left there as vice president of marketing. I got a call from Donato's, from a lovely young woman from Donato's that I interviewed for the job for. My story about Donato's is first I fell in love with the pizza. Who's had Donato's pizza in this room? A little applause, maybe, that's better. I fell in love with the pizza, then I fell in love with the job offer, then I fell in love with the company, and then I fell in love with the founder's daughter and married her. And that's my wife, Jane, over here to the left. And by the way, it is in that order. I just want everybody to know that is the exact order. And for those who don't know, Donato's, we're not 100 years old, but we're a 62-year-old family-owned business that has 3 generations in it. So similar to White Castle in a lot of ways.
Jim Grody.
Jim Grody's the founder and is still active, and I'll talk about some of the things that he's working on, but he's 81 now, 81, 82, and still actually he has an innovation center, and he's developing automated pizza making equipment that's actually very cutting edge and has a lot of interest in the industry, and of course we have a number of his machines in our...
It's going to put Flippy to shame.
I don't know if it'll put Flippy to shame, but it certainly will accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I started at Donato's in the marketing world. I was running marketing, and then I ran franchise and a couple of other jobs along the way. And then I became CEO in 2010. So I was at Donato's for 25 years.
So I think one of the claims to fame that you would have is you pretty much doubled Donato's business within a pretty short period of time. So you want to talk about that? I mean, that's quite an achievement for any of us or for any company.
So maybe I start with, Jim retired as CEO back in 2010.
Yeah.
And really what he was looking for was an approach to take the ideals of Donato's, which, is about quality. It's about how you treat people, but try to get scale. And I think a lot of founders find themselves in that situation where they build an amazing concept, and Donato's is an amazing concept. But Jim, he wanted growth and he wanted it quicker. So really the effort on growth kind of came down to what are we focusing on? And are we focusing on the things that are going to make a difference? If our goal and our vision is to be a billion-dollar company that gives more than it receives, that's the concept of Donato's. But at the time we were, $200 million company. How do we get to that? What are the things that we need to focus on, and what should we not focus on? So in a lot of cases, it's, there may be initiatives that support our mission, but is that the most important issue? And I think a lot of companies or a lot of departments, or even you in the room, you may be focusing on a lot of things, but when it comes down to it, are you advancing the efforts that are going to get you to that vision? We called that the make or break. So make or break is a concept I'm very high on, and what make or break is, it says if you could be better at one thing than you are today, and by being better at that one thing, that's going to give you the greatest chance to hit your vision. What is that? And that may sound easy when you say it. For Donato's, quality is what we're really all about. Edge to edge pizza, ingredients that are more natural and great tasting food. But if we're trying to be a billion-dollar company, what's the one thing we need to focus on?
So it's a sense of prioritization, really.
Yeah.
And kind of.
Yeah, down to a single thing. What is that single thing? I know.
I didn't get one.
I know. Well, it comes out under the floor.
Yeah.
So for us, when I was in this role, really the issue, people love the product.
Yeah.
We have the highest rated product, freshness, quality, variety, nutritional. That's locked. We have a culture that people recognize. They loved our people. They loved how we serve. They love how we got involved in the community. The issue was our unit level economics, though good, were not great. So if we want to be a billion-dollar company, and we're going to do that through franchising, that is our growth model, we were selling franchises with a quality product, with a great culture. So people love us. They're proud of the product, but the financial piece, the return wasn't as strong as we needed it to be. So I know this sounds like an obvious thing, but if you all of a sudden decide, yeah, we're not going to drop our ideals for quality, we're not going to drop our quality standards, we're not going to change our culture, but we have to be laser focused on unit level economics, you do things differently. And so from 2010, we were probably in the low or the high single-digit percentage EBITDA at the store level. And over a 4.5, 5-year period, we ended up being in the 14 to 15% EBITDA. So now, the problem was, you're not going to get all the types of franchise interest unless you've got a strong return. So that started to kind of open up our ability to grow. The thing about make or break is you always have to ask that question. So, yes, we got the store level economics up, the quality ratings were still high, our associate ratings were still high. How can we grow quicker?
Well, one of the things I always thought about you guys, and just from reading all the social media or even talking to you, is the focus on people.
Right.
I mean, it seemed to be like a pretty huge part of the methodology for growth. Am I wrong? Or?
Oh, for sure. Because what we were doing, we were creating a challenge that was outside the realm of what we were operating.
Yeah.
And so you put a challenge up there to double in size, and a lot of people aren't really interested in growth. They may tell you they're interested in growth, but to what does that mean to them? What's in it for me really was
Right.
Every decision that we made, we had to say, here's what's in it for you.
I think that's a great mantra, by the way, for all HR,
Mhm.
period. What's in it for them?
Yeah, and communicate that. Make a decision. I mean, it's amazing, and trust me, we didn't do this perfectly along the way. But when you make a decision, what is the benefit to the person who's understanding that decision? And this last make or break was opening up our distribution. Jim, my father-in-law, Jane's dad, is obsessed with quality. So almost all of the ingredients on our pizza are customized
Mhm.
because that makes a great tasting pizza.
Yeah.
And thank God, because that allows it to stand above the rest. The downside to that is you can't open up a Donato's in Reno, Nevada, because you can't fill distribution channels. So we had to do something to open up that distribution, and that's when we did a partnership with Red Robin, where Red Robin is a franchisee of ours, and they have a small version of our kitchen and a small version of our menu in their restaurant. So we went from being in 6 distribution centers to 26 distribution centers overnight. All of a sudden, people who are asking us to franchise, we could say yes. I would say, 75 to 80% of the people that wanted to franchise with us, we couldn't do it because we couldn't affordably fill the distribution channels. So that's back to your original question. When you talk about growth, you have to decide what is that most important thing. First was unit level economics, second was distribution. So I would just encourage you in your world to really think about, yes, everything is important, but some things are more important than others, and I think that's people want to understand that.
I think this thing about people really sticks with me because it's such an ignored factor. In retail, it's the same type of thing where people forget about the associates because they're worried about putting, AI into stores and things like that. I mean, your focus on people has been extraordinary. Did you ever run across a strategy, or when you do run across a strategy, do you think like, how does this work with people, and in what order? Where does that come into play?
Well, certainly, that always comes into play. That's you can have the greatest idea in the world, but you got to do it through people. So um, I think the question is, how do you build the trust of the organization? So if we have 7,000 associates across the country, many of these stores are franchise stores. So we have a franchise system. How do you build that connection with the people that are going to make a difference? And I think that's a matter of building trust. And you build trust with people by being honest with them. If you don't have the answer to the question, you don't be bullshitting them. Say, listen, the pandemic breaks, and if you look at that as a microcosm, um, we didn't know a lot, but what we didn't do was not communicate. We didn't hold back. In fact, we started communicating right off the bat, saying, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. So be honest with them, collaborate with them. And I'll use the pandemic as another example for that. We built that plan together with them. I mean, we really did. We had calls twice a week. Jane and I did videos once or twice a week that went out to the system. We had a hotline with ideas that came in. People felt like they were a part of, everyone was scared. And they use the pandemic as an example, but there are less extreme examples of when you're asking an organization to go through great change, they don't want to change. And the way you build trust is by collaborating with them and communicating and being honest with them. Um,
So in terms of characteristics of leadership, you want to hire a new VP or something like that. Like, how much does the people factor come into play for you guys?
well, it's huge. You can have we've had a lot of missteps where we hired people with a great resume, but did they put people first? Did they listen? Uh, did they understand how to build relationships with people? We I did a thing early on in my new job when labor was short. We had people. We have great loyalty. Our average tenure of our managers was 15 to 20 years. But and they remember the good old days. So some of them are stuck because they wish we were in the good old days, right? And they're dealing with challenges. So I did something I called King for a Day, where I actually went out and met, and nobody between me and the store level associates. I met with probably 150 associates at different meetings.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of those.
And just we asked them questions. How could we be better in the area of technology? What's working? What isn't? The only rule we had was, we're not talking about people. You're not talking about your boss or the guy that got the job that you don't think deserved it or whatever. And I can't guarantee you that anything that you talk about, that you suggest, that we'll do. And I was worried that they weren't going to communicate. Oh my gosh. It was like we had so many ideas, and some of them, a good chunk of them were not great ideas, I admit. Some of them were good ideas. Some of them we had already started working on them. But mostly it was the fact that we went out and talked to them and listened. And I guess I just think that, looking back, you get so busy in your job that the people side, you try to shortcut it. I don't really have the time to talk to this person. I don't really have the time to listen. I don't really want to listen because deep down, I don't really value this person's opinion. Well, they might actually not only have a good idea, but you're going to build trust. I think it's one of the hardest things to do, is to slow down and try to build trust and build that relationship.
So one of the things you may not know about Tom is the fact that you are a musician. And I've seen at least one of your bands. You have two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen one of his bands. It's like a 12-piece band. Tom sings, plays guitar, and you're excellent. So how does this factor, how does musicianship help you with your CEO role, or your former CEO role?
I guess first and foremost, you got to make life fun at work. And I think sometimes leaders get so serious that it's not a whole lot of fun. So I guess music or performing, your job is to create some energy and make sure people are having a good time. And you're building that kind of energy, and you throw something out there and they like it and they feed it back to you. I mean, you talk about connecting with people. It's really it's a metaphor for how to build a connection with an audience. And think of the company or your department or whatever as an audience. So I think making the job fun, I think, is one. I think I write songs, and I'm sure some people play music and write music. The music that is most memorable usually has a hook, a chorus line. It might be the dumbest phrase in the world, but it's simple and it's repeated and people remember it. And I think, and have always thought a lot about company communications, we tend to build a mission statement that nobody can remember because it's too long and it's too complicated and it was created in a boardroom. Donato's has a mission statement, but we also have something called the promise, which is to serve the best pizza and make your day a little better. Something that a 16-year-old could memorize. In fact, it sounds like a hook. In some ways, it could be a hook. And I think, music teaches you that if you repeat the same message over and over again and you keep it simple, you're going to have a greater, we like to tinker with things. We make it complicated and then we tinker it and we change it. And it's like.
So would you suggest to other CEOs to form bands?
Yes, everyone should form a band. No, but I do think you can think about how you communicate and
Yeah,
the messaging that
yeah,
you
the
put
way
out
you
there,
communicate.
the way that you communicate for sure.
So I'm going to steal a Michael Owens standard question. And what keeps you up at night, or
Nothing
especially used to?
anymore. My wife,
Nothing
because she's
anymore.
still working, so this has actually been it's been wonderful for our relationship because she's
Because you're like,
she's stressed and I can just empathize with her as opposed to debating about things. So, um, I think in this industry, it's how do you balance efficiency and automation with the human element?
mm,
That's part of what. And I heard Lisa talking about automation. We have machines that replace a monotonous task in the restaurant. It's a saucing machine that Jane's dad invented, and it sauces a pizza in like 10 seconds. And we have an automatic pepperoni machine that puts the 100 pieces of pepperoni on that's in beta test right now. But um, you know, how do you create efficiency and back to this whiff them? What's in it for me? Well,
yeah.
what's in it for you is you don't have to worry about mundane tasks. You're going to get paid more because out of some of the efficiency that you have through automation, you're going to be able to pay your people more.
Do you tell
So,
people that?
do we tell people that? Sure. Yeah. See, I don't go into work anymore, so I don't know. But I do think it's keeping that human side to it. And service is a difficult thing right now. I think customers have a lot of anxiety and our associates have a lot of anxiety. So the interactions between customers and associates are challenging. That's what kept me up at night was
So
that
you've
piece.
been in a business for a long time, and now you're not you got a chance to step back. You're still closely related to it. What do you see happening going down the road? Like, what do you see the future of the restaurant business? Is it all going to be flippy, or is it all going to be human oriented, or what do you think is going to
I
happen?
mean, I think, food has a level of enjoyment to it that is always going to be there. So food as fuel only, I believe is a small portion of, the reason that people use restaurants. So I think we're kind of settling out with all the change that's going on right now. So I think you'll have I think the demand on the restaurant operator or the demand on restaurants is how do you create an experience that is enjoyable, but be efficient enough to be able to deliver the return. So I think automation will have to be a part of it. I'm not a big I wasn't a big proponent of build the store of the future.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe incorrectly saw that maybe as maybe speaking to the investor community more so than and one of the problems I see with that model is you put all the bells and whistles in one and a third of the bells and half of the whistles don't work because that's the way
Uh-huh.
things
Yeah.
and then you lose momentum on that whole idea. So we've had an iterative process for store of the future. We have the automatic saucing, the smart saucer in 55 locations right now. We're getting through beta on that. We've got the slicing machine. We've got AI ordering in almost all the locations. But when it's ready, we apply it and then build a store that kind of fits that moving forward.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? We have a few seconds left, right, Zia?
Yep, we have time for one question. There we go. Take it, it's yours.
Great question. How do we get the margins from or the EBITDA from 10% to 15%? About little over a third of it was volume, and we drove that volume by being really kind of leaning into digital ordering before a lot of others. So we added digital ordering. So volume was one piece of it, digital ordering and off premise. Um, Labor efficiency was the other. I think our franchise partners, we hadn't been helping them as much with the labor side of the model. Food cost was a small part of it, but there were examples of decisions that we had made years ago that were relevant at the time, but based on the changing in costs, we might have a customized slice of cheese on our sub because it was good and it also had a great price to it. And then years later, this is one of the downsides of a founder-led company. Everybody said, you can't touch the cheese. Jim will go crazy if you touch the cheese. Well, you talk to Jim and, we used to put actually shredded cheese on that sub. It was cheaper and it tasted better. And all of a sudden we saved 0.3 of a point. So think little things like that. They all add up, but volume was probably the bigger driver and labor efficiency for the franchise system. Great question.
Okay, I think that's
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.